Hey everybody, it's Jenna. Today is so funny. I spent the day writing and filming a new video about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I'm hoping to get to y'all later this week. I turned my phone off of Do Not Disturb, and literally within 5 minutes we got the news of two very different DC TV shows that are officially in development. The first is a TV adaptation of V for Vendetta, which would be written by Pete Jackson, not to be confused with Peter Jackson, and produced by DC Studios for HBO. The second is DC Crime, a true crime mockumentary series centered around Jimmy Olsen and the other reporters of the Daily Planet outside of Clovis, investigating supervillains. The show is being developed by Dan Peralt and Tony Yacenda, who are best known for the Netflix show American Vandal. I will reiterate, these are just in development and are not officially greenlit yet, although the Jimmy show has been hinted at for several months now. But there is just so much to process here, especially while trying to combine these two shows into one video, because they could not be more different from each other. It is kind of breaking my brain in a fun way. Let's start with V for Vendetta, a sentence I did not expect to be saying on this channel anytime soon. Written by Alan Moore with art by David Lloyd and Tony Weir, the story was originally published from 1982 to 1985 as a black and white feature in the British magazine Warrior. DC then reprinted the run in color as a 10-issue limited series and has handled the many trade paperbacks and hardcover reprints of it ever since. The series is set in a post-apocalyptic version of the UK, surrounded by nuclear fallout and ruled by the fictional fascistic Norse Fire Party. It centers around V, a revolutionary using a combination of anarchy and theatrics to overthrow the government, and his unlikely protege, a woman named Evie Hammond. It was adapted into a movie in 2005 starring Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman, and the third season of Pennyworth essentially became a very weird prequel to it. Either way, V for Vendetta has since become a part of our cultural DNA. Seriously, if this is somehow your first time hearing about it, you have probably still seen V's Guy Fawkes mask out in the world somewhere, or seen fictionalized versions of it in shows like Mr. Robot. It's not just that the subject matter of the book is getting more and more relevant, it's that our current moment and the format of television could lead to the story being told in an entirely new way. The movie is good, and it was such an inspired mid-2000s choice to have the Wachowski sisters write it, but it definitely does not capture some of the densities of the source material. I feel like this could end up being a very similar situation to Watchmen, where Zack Snyder's movie hit the right beats at the time, but the HBO show was able to add even more layers and social importance to everything and stand as its own unique piece of art. I didn't know I needed V for Vendetta to get that treatment, but I honestly welcome it, both for what it could say on such a big stage and for the way that it could continue to build DC's reputation with prestige HBO TV. After Watchmen and The Penguin and what it sounds like we're going to get around Lanterns, there is such a unique opportunity to continue making prestige dramas that mean something to a lot of people, all while they just so happen to be based on comic books. On the complete opposite side of that, we have DC Crime. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I've been advocating for a Jimmy show. Go watch that first video if you want a further breakdown of his comic history and why a solo project makes perfect sense for him. But I will still give the Cliff Notes version of that here, especially because I feel like every single update around this show is usually met with some form of, wait, why? A lot of viewers really only just met Jimmy for the first time in Superman, after years of him being done dirty in modern superhero projects. But Jimmy has decades of rich history in the comics, not only as part of Superman's supporting cast, but as the star of his own book, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. That book ran for 20 years and 163 issues from 1954 through 1974, which is a feat in general, but especially in an age where we're lucky if some books last for 10 issues. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is one of my favorite snapshots of what DC was like at the time, both because Jimmy's personality was so strong even beyond the Archie style kind of protagonist that he was trying to be, and because he could be a conduit for goofy and implausible things happening around him. He turns into kaiju and marries gorillas, more on that in a second, and accidentally time travels and causes Beatlemania and bumps elbows with an evil Don Rickles, and that is just a fraction of what happens in that book. And once Jack Kirby took over the title in 1970, he used it as a backdoor pilot for Darkseid in the Fourth World mythos, because at that point it made perfect sense too. In 2019, Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber revived Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen into a 12-issue masterpiece. It kept the spirit and the wackiness of that original run while also getting even weirder and more modern and folding in some surprising supporting characters. I dare you to read those 12 issues and the Perry White focused one-shot and say that a solo show about Jimmy wouldn't work. It just does, especially after the energy that Skylar brought to him in Superman. The idea of it being a true crime mockumentary sounds so fun, especially from the American Vandal guys who genuinely made a cult classic out of that format already. And framing it as an in-universe show could accomplish so much in one fell swoop. It could make the timeline of where it's set between Superman and Man of Tomorrow a bit more nebulous. Clark and Lois's absence could easily be explained away as them being on other assignments or not wanting to be on TV. Practically anyone from the DCU could make a cameo as a talking head interview, and it could just clue us in on what DCU pop culture is like. Y'all know how much I've wanted to see that. I went on a several-minute tangent about the DCU's Muppets a few months ago. Plus, I love the idea of building a show around Jimmy and the Daily Planet planet crew, and providing a uniquely human perspective to a world that's anything but. Jimmy and Cat Grant and Steve Lombard and Ron Troop are just ordinary people, even more so than the 11th Street kids with their Black Ops trainings and their checkered past. The idea of following people who want to report on and react to this wacky world of gods and monsters instead of trying to pull up their bootstraps and fight it in a superhero way is an angle that we are long overdue for in this space. And everyone's personalities are so big and have so much potential. Go watch this video if you want to learn more about their comic histories, that I have a feeling it is just going to be so much fun to watch. I just desperately need Eve to make an appearance. And then you fold in Grodd. If you haven't already heard me yap about him, Gorilla Grodd was created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino in 1959's The Flash number 106. He is a gigantic gorilla and the ruler of a secret kingdom known as Gorilla City, who gains telepathic mind control abilities after being exposed to an alien meteorite. While he has become a prominent part of the entire DC universe, he is best known as an antagonist of the Flash family. Jimmy also canonically married and then very quickly divorced one of Grodd's girlfriends in the comics. I'm not saying that we'll get that in the show, but I'm also not saying that it's impossible. With this news, I've already seen some people start to worry about how live-action DCU Grodd will stack up to his Arrowverse counterpart. After being introduced in the Flash TV show, he went on a journey that not only put him through the emotional ringer, but gave us this masterpiece.
Barack Obama.
As great as the Arrowverse version was, I've always felt like there is even more you can do with Grodd, and different ways that you can frame him as an antagonist to the larger universe. Go read Rogues, by the way. His very brief appearance in the flash forward of Creature Commandos proved this to me, and I am curious if the planet's investigation of him will involve that in any way. To my point about talking heads, I wouldn't rule out Senior or even Cersei showing up to talk about that vision from Commandos. And that also brings up the question of salvation, and whether or not this show could have something to do with the larger narrative of it. I forgot to mention this in my finale video, in part because there was just so much else to cover, but I feel like the vision of Grodd in Creature Commandos could create an interesting ethical dilemma with salvation. At what point does Senior just basically pull a Minority Report and preemptively capture Grodd and throw him into salvation because of the knowledge that he could do something that bad? Will this show deal with that, or will Grodd actually be doing something else that bad? I feel like absolutely anything is possible. What do you think of these two shows being in development? This is about to be the funniest comment section that I've probably had in a long time. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you haven't already done so. Merch is available at the link in the description. As always, you can find me on social media, especially on Threads at Hey It's Jenna Lynn. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, go read some comics.